Hey everybody, this is Stacy Jones, and I am so excited for our conversation today. We are in the month of May, and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, as we jump into this discussion, I have a very special guest. I see her as my big sister. I've watched her grow over the years, and she is in mental health as well. And her name is Vilma Perez. And so I'm going to have her join me today in this conversation about mental health. So, Ms. Vilma, welcome today to our conversation. Thank you for being here
Hello.
with us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Are you ready to jump into it?
Let's do it.
Well, before we jump into it, I want you to kind of share with everyone your background and your passion. Why did you choose this field of mental health? What made you kind of go into this field and pursue helping people in this capacity?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say that this is such a just opportune, amazing conversation to have, it being Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month. So,
Yes.
congratulations with this for
Yes.
you, towards you.
Thank you.
Yes, as she mentioned, my name is Vilma Perez or Vilma Emmanuel Perez because I kept my maiden name from my daddy.
All right.
And a lot of that has to do with I am firstborn generation Nigerian. And so I got into mental health because I was acting up one day.
Mm.
And my mom said, my mom is a psychiatric nurse, so she's retired now, but she worked at Harris County Psychiatric Center in Houston. And
Awesome.
one day I was acting out, and she said, "If you want to be crazy, I will come with me to work. You can be crazy at work." And this was before take your child to work days. This is the 80s. We weren't doing that then. And
Wow.
so she legit enough times to threaten me and took me with her to work and left me on the children's unit while she made rounds. She did. I feel like there should have been something that I could have signed. You know what I mean? Like
Right. To be there.
some sort of consent or something. But she was the director of nursing, so she ran everything.
Wow. That's
So
awesome.
she left me on the children's unit, and it was children that were addicted to drugs, like either like
Mm.
fetal alcohol syndrome, something like that. So I was there on this unit watching all of these kids just buck, right? And I sheltered, just grew up in the suburbs, just looking at everybody like, and we are like deep Houston, and I'm like, what is going on?
What's
Oh my gosh.
happening?
And then after a while, because I'm such a like my favorite thing to do is go to the airport and make narratives for everybody. My husband will tell you it's my favorite thing to do.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's a whole other story. But which I mean, and I do use narrative therapy. That's a different story. But
Okay.
so I'm here at this psychiatric center, and I'm literally just watching the kids and really like sitting with myself like, well, why are they here? What happened to them? Why are they like
Mm.
that? How come they can't calm down? Like, where are their mom and dad? Those type questions. So that was set into me at an early age. I think I was about 6 or 7 when that happened. And then just through the years, being a person now recognizing it or knowing it as the gift of counsel. But I mean, like when I tell you, not only can I talk to a tree, but everybody talks to me like strangers, like everyone has
Wow.
questions. They want my input. They need me to grab something off the shelf because I'm 6'1", whatever, right? And
Wait, you're
so
6'1"?
I am
Wow. Did
six
you play
one.
sports?
I did, but again, Nigerian parents, doctor, engineer, lawyer, those were your
Right.
options. So it was
Right.
like, put that basketball down, read a book, learn some French. They were different. They were different people.
Wow.
So yeah, so gift of counsel. And there was like one specific moment that I remember. I was in about seventh grade and I was helping, like, she was like a friend, like in my friend
Hmm.
group. It was like, because again, growing up in the suburbs, you have like 25 black girls that hang out together because it's like, one of these things is not like the other. We're all going to be friends.
Right.
But specifically, there was one in our friend group, and she was having a hard time in our biology class, and so, and not like I felt like I was extra bright or smart or whatever, but I got to explain the lesson to her in a way that
Hmm.
she could understand. And I remember like thinking like, who am I like to explain this to her, right? Like, okay, like I mean, she might got a D and I got like a C plus or a B minus, right?
Okay.
But I explained it to her, and another friend of mine would lean over. She's like, you're smarter than you think, and for
Mm.
the fact that you can take information and break it down for her to understand, that's intelligence.
Wow.
And she was like someone like I mean she's a nurse practitioner now. I need to tell her the story. I don't think she knows this, but she was someone that I saw that was just so beautiful and so smart that I looked up to. And so for her to tell me that, it was like, like we're onto something here, right? I feel
Okay.
special. So all of that coupled together with, just liking, enjoying helping people, enjoying stories,
That's
because
good.
by origin, Africans are storytellers. So I am all about someone's story, getting all up in it. And I like to joke and say, like, when I first was in this field and I was working with schizophrenics, they would be like, Vienna, you cannot join them in their delusion. I'm like, baby, if they
Right.
see it, I see it too. What color is it? What does it smell like? Like, I'm in it. Baby, you are right. You feel it. I
Oh
felt it.
my
I am
goodness.
in.
Right.
Draw me in. I am there with you. Because I think there's beauty in understanding not only someone's story, but their perspective of their story.
That's
And
good.
with that, you're able to unlock and discover or uncover really some soul wounds and some faulty
Mm,
thinking. So
that's good.
right.
That's
That is
good.
why I enjoy what I do.
Awesome. And so tell me about your credentials, what degree did you pursue and things of that nature, school you went to?
Oh my gosh, the school I went to. Do we talk about this school? Because we got
No,
some mixed
you know,
feelings about the
you
school. Well, the school is now called Nelson University, which
right,
takes me out because it's
right.
so nerdy sounding.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Southwestern Assemblies of God University is even nerdier.
Okay.
So yeah, I went to SAGU in Waxahachie, Texas, of all
Right.
places.
Okay.
And I did my undergrad and my grad there, partially because in the program, when I was an undergrad, the grad program was so new.
Mm-hmm.
And something which I think was a setup of the Lord, but something happened with my credits where they didn't have the classes that I needed to graduate, so they let me take a grad class.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
and that was like a bridge for me into the grad program because
Gotcha.
I never saw myself getting a master's degree. I really thought I was going to finish this degree first of all I was doing like urban evangelism and
Okay.
music, right?
Okay.
But my parents were like, you need a real degree, which again, Africans.
Oh
Might
my
have let
goodness.
me out of the will of the Lord a little bit, but it's fine, parents. I was being obedient to my
Yeah.
parents. So I did that, and so that was the bridge for me to go to grad school. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The first class that I took was group therapy, which
Mm.
was again, I mean, you've already known that I'm a little bit of a prankster, but then like I tell people, I'm the most unserious, serious person that you'll meet. Like
I
just
gotcha. I gotcha.
so here it is in my formative younger 20s, and all of these people that did not look like me were
Mm-hmm.
talking about problems. And I was
Mm.
like, be a black 6'1" female in Waxahachie, Texas.
Right.
You don't,
Right.
when you come to school and they're writing, derogatory terms on the lunch trays, like what?
Mm-hmm.
But to hear all them, I was like, oh, scandalous, like, oh, y'all went through, right? Like,
Right. Y'all got
oh my,
issues.
right. But it was like it had opened my eyes to because of growing up in the suburbs and then attending a PWI. This is
Mm-hmm.
a different lens to see
Gotcha.
those that didn't look like me, where they were admitting flaws and vulnerabilities that I didn't
Gotcha.
see.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came from a background where there was a lot of privilege and there was a lot of it was an affluent neighborhood and a lot of wealth, and so you just didn't really hear or see.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was like a we don't air our dirty laundry, best foot forward, that type
Right.
environment. So
Right.
to be on this end of like I'm in a class and I'm hearing these people that are like really battling some like low self-esteem and depression, anxiety, like abuse, like things like that. I was just like, oh,
Right.
so we're more alike than I thought.
Right.
We're more alike than I thought because it was. I think the school did their best, but there was like, and you can maybe attest to this as well. There was a sense of us versus them at
Mm.
times, and so um, it was difficult. But hearing them and being in this grad class, it was while it was emotionally draining, it was
Mm-hmm.
it was life for me.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, I think I really like this. I like this counseling thing. I
Mm-hmm.
like hearing stories, and I like helping people navigate through them to their own truth or growth or whatever it may be that
That's
they're
awesome.
looking
So
for.
you
So
graduate from your both your bachelor's and your master's.
yes, I did my
Okay.
bachelor's was in, I want to say psychology, or the
Okay.
other way. One of them was psychology. One of them was counseling psychology.
Gotcha.
So I did my bachelor's and my master's there.
Did you take your test right after you finished your master's program
I
or?
did. I did like within 6 weeks because I'm like
Wow.
again unmedicated and I'm like I don't want to forget this. And when I say
Right.
unmedicated, I mean like what ADHD. I didn't want to forget any information.
Yes.
And I'm just the type of person where I have to like be fully involved and like like fresh in the moment. So I took my exam about 6 weeks after graduation.
Awesome. And then
Hmm.
because you're LPC,
Yes, I was going to say that. Yes, licensed professional counselor.
right? And then you finished your test and then jumped into your 3,000. Is it still,
Did
was it
yes,
3,000
did the
then?
3,000 hours,
Okay.
and that was an experience. The 3,000 hours was primarily at Hickory Trail Hospital in
Wow. Okay.
DeSoto.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, we're gonna leave it at
Awesome.
that. We're gonna leave it at that. Did that there, and
Okay.
I did do some grad like counseling under Dr. Myers at Sagu
Oh,
Counseling
cool.
Center.
That's
So I
awesome.
enjoyed that as well. And I did some, I was actually like, I did enjoy this. I was the first grad student to be accepted to be a practicum student at what's the hospital on Samuel Boulevard in Dallas? I forget. It was one of the first mental health hospitals in Dallas.
That's
I can't
awesome.
remember. So I remember like Dr. Armstead specifically being like, Vilma, this is like, he's
A big
like, don't
deal.
don't make us look bad because you never
Yes.
had a Bible student that got accepted to be as
Wow.
a practicum student,
We need to
and it was
find out. We need to find
wonderful.
out the name of that hospital. That's
I
pretty
know I
awesome.
can't remember. I could Google it right now, but
I gotcha.
it's on 30th and Samuel or something like that.
Somewhere off of 30.
Somewhere off of 30 over there.
I gotcha. So let's talk about this. So after you finished your master's, you finished your test, you did your hours. Now
Hmm.
it's time for you to jump into your career. What population did you find yourself working with?
So interesting enough, the first job that I had after graduation that helped
Mm-hmm.
me. Oh, and you know what? Sorry, this is also where I completed my hours because it was there and Hickory Trail. Was back then it was called Ellis County something Ellis County Counseling Center,
Okay.
right off 35, and we worked with parolees, probationers,
Mm.
and sex offenders and youth. So
Wow.
that was an experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So that you were working with younger individuals right off the
Hmm.
bat. Okay.
Well, I didn't really. We could do groups with the youngers. I didn't want to, and I feel like it wasn't. I don't know if I didn't want to, but it didn't. My schedule didn't align to where I got to work with the younger, because they were younger sex offenders as well. But
Okay.
so I was with parolees and probationers. I think they also did that for like intimidation tactics or something. Like,
I
she
gotcha.
not gonna let us get away with nothing. Look at us, she big. I mean, from what I was told. So I was with the probationers and the so like those that were like either violators like through drugs or like offenses
Yeah.
and things like that. So that was my first
Okay.
job.
And
Hmm.
then now you have your own practice.
I have my own practice, but I also work with a company called Resolute Mental Health. But
Okay.
I have been in private practice since 2017. How many years is that? 2017.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was, and it's funny how I even ended up in that because I was so used to doing either hospitals or, whatever managed care. And
Mm-hmm.
the job that I had before private practice was working as a psychotherapist for Dallas Independent School District,
Gotcha.
partnered with the youth and family counseling or something like that, therapies. And I had enough kids that I would see that their parents would be like, "Can we get a session with you? Like, we want to meet with
Mm.
you outside of, coming to the school campus." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I don't know. Let me sit with the kids, And I had done adults before, but it was
Okay.
just easier as far as clientele and children. Children are a lot more. I like kids more because they're so stinking real. Like, there's no like
They're
pretending.
not hiding
There's
anything,
no
right?
Yeah, they don't
Right.
care about how smart you are. They don't care if you can read. They don't care, right?
Yeah.
So I got along well with kids, and the thought of like talking to adults seemed very intimidating to me because it's
Yeah.
like, I even tell my clients now, I'm not the expert. Yes, I've been doing this for almost 20 years and don't look
Mm-hmm.
like it, but when it comes to your life, you're the expert. I'm
Yes.
here. in the
Yes.
passenger seat asking you
Yes.
questions, wondering
That's
why
huge.
there's a chicken walking around outside, right? Like
You just said
I'm not the
something.
expert.
You said
Um,
something very important because I think that people think that counselors, therapists are superheroes, right? And yes, we went to school. We spent a lot of hours in what we love doing. But at the end of the day, you said it best. You're the expert, right?
mhm,
Because we educate them, we work through certain things. But when you leave, you have to really begin to implement and exercise and apply the things that we've been discussing. And so
absolutely.
you just I think you really spoke to a myth that I think people have is that counselors are superheroes. They have a wand and they
Yeah.
wave it over people. And when you leave that session, everything is going to be perfect. And I think
Hmm.
sometimes people walk away disappointed in the beginning because they think that just because I sat with a therapist, that everything is going to be perfect when I leave.
Hmm.
And you really got to put in work. That's huge.
Hmm. Or that we even have it all together because we don't.
Correct. Correct. We're still human. We're still
We
people.
don't.
We're working through our own challenges, our own emotions,
Yeah.
you know. So let me ask you this. When I say the word mental health, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when the word mental health is mentioned?
Yeah, so I think about the words that come to my mind are alignment with mind,
Mm.
body, soul, and spirit because we are a triune being, right? And I feel like when one of those three is out of whack, everything's out of whack,
Oh,
right?
that's good.
If you the like the mental health, it's like your state of well-being, so the state of your emotions, the state of your spirit and your soul, right? The state
Mm-hmm.
of your mind. What are you thinking on? How are you connecting with people? How are you interacting with the world around you? What is your
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence like? But to be of
Wait, that's a big
sound.
word. That's a big word. Stop.
Oh yeah, oh sorry,
Time
oh
out.
yeah.
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Help us understand that.
Right? So there is like textbook definition, but for me, emotional intelligence has to do with you being in tune and sensitive, aware of your emotions, and also aware and in tune and sensitive to the emotions of others around you. Right?
Yes.
And so if I already know that X, Y, and Z family member deals with rejection, there are times where I'm going to have to overextend myself, not in an unhealthy way, but then
Yes.
I'm going to be good about affirming them so that they don't feel rejected because I
Woo,
know
that's
that's their soul
powerful
wound.
because you have the capacity emotionally to facilitate that within yourself.
Hmm.
So then you have the ability, like you said, to extend that grace, that mercy, that endurance, that compassion. And I think
Absolutely.
sometimes when people aren't able to do that, maybe that's a reflection of the level of their personal emotional intelligence.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we see it now on social media. Like, I think about my son. I have a 5-year-old who's the best thing. Like, if you ever meet him, you're just going to be like, can I have it? I'm going to be like, we can
Oh,
share.
that's awesome.
He's so adorable. But even, I was doing his hair and he's got like, he has the nerve to be beige with red hair and it's like 4B, 4C. So it's like,
Wow.
we know you're mixed, but
Right.
where with the hair, right? And so, like a few weeks ago, I'm doing his hair, and he is just, and I'm like, not, like just lightly detangled, because I'm used to, we're used to like
Oh,
black mamas
yeah.
like brushing you from your eye. This is bad
100%.
with the hot comb getting burned. So I'm being so delicate and soft, and I'm thinking I'm doing like I am mommy, you know what I mean? And I'm detangling, and I'm trying to put a little zigzag pattern and separate his hair, and he's like, "Ah!" like just falling out, and I'm like. And again, because I was hormonal and not in a good place, I said, Kairos, shut up. And I
Okay.
was like,
Yeah.
because I'm like, baby, I'm so sorry. I've never used the word shut up on him. I don't like to use the word shut up on anybody.
Yeah.
And immediately went into like, I am so sorry. Mommy is frustrated and
Yeah.
I should have, I could have used a different word because I'm getting frustrated. And he said, yeah, mommy, you need to take a deep breath. You have to calm down and regulate your emotions.
He told you that?
You hear me?
That's amazing. The young man is educated.
You hear me? And I said, it's because so some of my clients that knew me before I got pregnant, they are used to seeing him like in the background or hearing him. They're like, they call him co-counsel. So they're like, oh, co-counsel over there. And so my co-counsel told me like, mommy, you need to take a deep breath. And he literally
Yes.
did like this. Breathe with me, and he walked me there, and I was like, but
Right?
just like I've taught him that, and he's able to regurgitate that to me, right? That is how we need to be with the world around us when we
That's
notice
huge.
others in our space, in our environment that are dysregulated. Yeah, we
Mm.
may not be a mom, but we can model regulation to them and treat them with grace to where either way they're picking it up and they're learning it without it being like a lesson to them.
That's really, really good. Where do you find yourself mostly when you're working with clients? What are some of the main things that you are working through with your clients that you see that tend to be a reoccurring thing with a lot of people that they're trying to process, or just something that's highlighted in a lot of sessions that you work when you're working with people?
Yeah, so it's really a myriad of things. I think the things that come up um on a surface level is
Mm-hmm.
like everyone's like, "Oh, I'm anxious," or "Oh, I'm depressed," right?
Right.
But as we get deeper into what's going on with it, there is some like abandonment rejection issues and
Mm.
some what I will call demonic evangelism, right?
Oh, hold up.
They
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. Demonic evangelism. We got to break that down. Help me
Well, we
understand
think of
that.
evangelism being like the spread of the good news, right?
Ooh,
And so this demonic evangelism is the spread of bad news or
my
negative
God.
news, things that God has not said about us that we have
Ooh.
taken and made truth and had that trump over his word.
You going to make me run out of this chair.
Yeah.
You going to
Yeah.
make me run out of this chair. Demonic evangelism. I've
Mm-hmm.
never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
But the spreading of the gospel, evangelizing, is the good news.
Mm-hmm. And
But
the testimony
I
of
see
Jesus,
exactly
right? The
what you're
spirit of
saying.
prophecy is the testimony of Jesus. And so
Yes.
the opposite would be the enemy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these individuals, and even us as we work through things, sometimes the enemy tries to spread information, spread lies, spread things that are not even true.
They're not true.
And we take these things as our own.
Mm-hmm.
We think they're a part of our personality.
Mm-hmm.
We think they're a part of just how we deal with life.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get in a session with someone like yourself and go, oh, that's incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is that incorrect, that's an enemy.
Yeah, absolutely. And to being able to identify it as that, because the thing is that we by nature, our brain craves patterns, right? Think about like when, I don't know if you watched Sesame Street, but it was like you had to identify one of these things is not like the other, right? By identifying the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why that those false belief systems are truth to us is because life has had patterns of showing us, well, why you're not enough, why you're ugly, why you're stupid, why you stink, why you're whatever, because you've had situations and experiences that affirm that faulty thinking, that affirm that demonic evangelism.
My God. You just said a whole mouthful right there. So now a person realizes they have negative thought patterns. They have incorrect belief systems. Where do you start? Where does a
Yeah.
person start with all of these things that they start to identify as they're working in counseling?
Yeah, so it's this is kind of where it can go like two places for me for counseling, whether it goes like spiritual, biblical versus like psychology, but essentially it is challenging that faulty belief system, right?
That's
So
good.
if you feel like, well, I don't know, I just feel like I'm selfish. Okay. Okay, let's say that you are selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Where else have you heard that in life? It can't just be your thought. You would have to hear that from a coworker, from a family member, from a friend, from a neighbor. Like you would have to have that continuous message to you that you were selfish. Have you heard it anywhere? Like has anyone ever gotten on to you,
That's
called you
good.
out, whatever, for being selfish? And then they're usually like, no. Yeah, so this could be you being hard on yourself is what it sounds like. Right? So where did you receive the message that you should be hard on yourself? Where did you receive the message that to be expressive or to communicate your needs is selfish?
Yeah.
Why did you receive that? Well, I remember when I was a kid, my mom used to tell me X, Y, and Z. Ah, okay. So not only is that a thing, but there's a mother wound right there, right? Where
Mm.
because of whatever mom said and she implanted it in you and you face rejection and you're not comfortable with that feeling of rejection, you try to govern yourself by telling yourself that you're selfish so that you become selfless in order to, to avoid the rejection,
Wow.
right? Like,
Wow.
what?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's intense. So have you seen where there are times where there's a spiritual side to what a person is going through and a mental, side that a person is going through that they need to really work through? What has been your experiences in that, and how have you been able to utilize both and work with clients with both, or maybe one or the other?
Yeah. So I'm like, I want to be mindful and sensitive to audience and how much to share.
Yeah.
But so clinically, yes, as far as like helping someone navigate faulty thinking, rejection, anxiety, things like that. So confronting the mindsets, confronting the false belief systems, and having them practice like grace towards themselves and self love, right?
That's
Because I
good.
believe sometimes I'm not sure where I heard this, but we can act with an unloving spirit towards ourselves, which is
Mm.
condemnation, right? Like there's
Mm.
condemnation in that. There's also pride in that, right? That you have exalted and made your predicament and your whatever bigger than what the finished work of the cross has accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that piece. And then I have had, and these specific moments affirmed my gifting or call. I don't even like to use those words, to deliverance ministry,
Yeah.
where I had sessions where people it manifested,
Yeah.
things not of them of their actual selves,
Yeah.
and other things present in the session.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, being able to recognize that thing and call it out,
Absolutely.
and then walking that person through freedom. Because
Yeah.
when I grew up, and I have to give a background, like the Nigerian church, there's a lot of like mysticism and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't want to say like fanaticism, but there's like mysticism and another word I'm looking for where
Mm-hmm.
people are so demon focused and demon conscientious. And so I grew up in churches where you would see people thrashing on the floor, crawling
Right.
like a snake, doing whatever. And it
Right.
was like, what did they do in their life that they are worshiping Satan? That they are
Mm-hmm.
in that place. And so
Right.
it was this mindset of they must have done something wrong to behave this way. But
Mm-hmm.
as a therapist, I learned that those things came because of soul wounds that were unhealed.
Yeah.
That was the open door, right?
Yeah.
And so when you are dealing with rejection, when you're dealing with fear, when you're dealing with whatever, low self-esteem, yes, it can be a thought, but if it is not confronted by the truth of God's word and his
Mm-hmm.
love, and
Mm-hmm.
it's left open, then
Yeah.
the enemy, he's a jerk and he's an opportunist. So he's going to
Absolutely.
come in, right?
Yeah.
Capitalize on that moment, and then introduce all these foul spirits that come, that propel and kind of create this compulsion of this negative, or this self prophecy, or whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it,
Yeah.
of the things that you think about yourself being true. So if I am dealing with rejection and I put out rejection, I'm literally carrying a spirit of rejection, which
Mm.
is making people want to reject me, right?
Ooh.
But then it's like, see, everybody leaves. Nobody
Yep.
likes me.
Yep. Yep.
But you have a spirit of rejection that was introduced in the womb
Yep.
sometimes,
Yep.
that wasn't dealt with, that could have been coming down through the bloodline,
Yep.
and you feel like everyone is rejecting you, but you are carrying an inhabitant of rejection.
Mm. That's a whole series. That's a
Yeah.
whole sermon right there. And I
Yeah.
don't think people realize that, but you said it best at the beginning. We're spirit, soul, and body. We're made of three parts. And so I think that we can get partial help and partial solutions through therapy and confronting negative thinking and things of that nature. But if there's a spiritual part to
Mm-hmm.
what you're experiencing in your life, that has to be addressed. And so I think you
Mm-hmm.
said it best. So let me ask you this last question. Since it is Mental Health Awareness Month, what would you say are some things that a person can cultivate and utilize to develop a healthy mental health life? If they say, listen, I want to be healthy mentally. I want to be
Mm-hmm.
healthy emotionally. I want to be healthy spiritually. What are some things that you feel would be beneficial for people to maybe implement, use in their daily, weekly routine? Just different things that will help them cultivate a
Mm-hmm.
healthy mental health life.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
would you say?
Well, it's going to take some autonomy, right? Of doing self inventory and
Mm,
sitting with your emotions, asking yourself hard questions like, am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling rejected? Am I feeling abandonment? Am I feeling loneliness? And why? Where did
mm,
that come from? What happened this week that promulgated that message, right? Like, so
yeah.
it takes some self inventory, and asking yourself challenging questions. I think as a whole, as people, we're uncomfortable with sitting with negative emotions, right? So we're
Mm,
gonna smoke, we're gonna overeat, we're gonna have sex, we're gonna do all these things, play video
my
games, whatever,
goodness.
in order to pacify ourselves. Because that's really, we're all toddlers, right? We're all kids. And so
It's
rather
the
than having a
truth.
pacifier, we've moved to all these other things that we use to pacify ourselves.
Ooh.
We have. And so, really, the need is, because I'm having these vices or because I'm having these emotions, is because there's an emotional need that hasn't been met. So,
Yes.
if you can be sensitive and gracious to yourself to say, like, what emotional need has not been met?
Mm,
Because that's a hard question to sit
yeah.
with. But if I can identify what emotional need has not been met and then attend to that, which is self care,
Yeah.
right? Which is practicing good mental hygiene. Like, I know if I'm going to start my cycle, the week before, I'm not going to eat potato chips and stay up till 3 a.m. scrolling on social media, because it's going to make me Katie Kaboom and tell my child shut up when I didn't mean to,
Right.
right?
Right.
I
Right.
got to take care of myself. So I'm going to make sure I'm getting some sleep. I got to make sure I'm exercising. I got to make sure, okay, you're going to wild out and you're going to have some chocolate, maybe chill on the chocolate, maybe get no sugar chocolate chips, something like
Right.
that, just to help regulate my emotions and also my mindset. Because you already know the pattern of when you indulge in those things, then you start
Right.
thinking you're, disgusting and a sloth and whatever. And then you start having negative mindsets about yourself, and then you're not getting things done. And then you're depressed because you can't get nothing done. And then you're anxious because you're depressed of not getting things done. Like, it's a cycle. So I think recognizing and realizing that it's okay to admit that you have an emotional need that needs to be met. We don't want to do that, right?
That's
And
so
again, like,
good.
we are all children. We just gotten sophisticated in the way we wah, rather than wah. It's like, well, I, shot somebody up in traffic. No, you needed a nap. You probably needed a hug, and you over here popping off in traffic because the
Ooh-wee.
need was not met.
Oh my goodness, it's so true. It is so true. You helping us today. So we're
Yes.
all children. We've just found more sophisticated ways to pacify ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Cuz when babies are frustrated or they're sleepy, they cry. When they're hungry,
They
they
cry.
cry. When they're sad, they cry. Just as adults, we do other things now. We cuss people out and we give people the silent treatment, or we go to Dairy Queen and get a large cookie dough blizzard with chocolate chip,
Come on.
on top, you know,
Yeah.
and instead of looking at ourselves and say, okay, what's going on? We give ourselves permission to be
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we point the finger at other people.
Yeah, because
So
you
I
blame
heard
other
you say a
people.
few things. You said we need to self-assess. We need to assess ourselves and see where we are. And then the second thing that I heard you say was to, in assessing ourselves, we need to kind of sit in those emotions so that we can get information and also what we may need in those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing I heard you say was that it's okay to implement self-care,
Mm-hmm.
because self-care, even with the word mental health, I think Sometimes it can be used inappropriately. Since COVID, mental health has been a thing, but mental health has been an issue. But sometimes people use it in the wrong places to kind of use it as an scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the same thing is with self-care. Self-care is very, 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 very important. But I
Yeah.
think sometimes people use it in the wrong way and they're self-caring, but nothing is developing, nothing's healing, nothing's getting better,
Right.
And so thank you for sharing those things. Are there any others that you would say is important that would help individuals develop a healthier mental health life? Assess,
Mm-hmm.
self-care, sitting your
Sit with the emotion,
emotions.
identify the unmet need.
Okay.
I want to say though with self care because we have to also be careful with self care and do you boo and me, self because I think the new thing or the it's not new. Let me not say that the thing that the enemy is wanting us to do is to become self focused, right?
Mm,
And to be lovers of self and
right.
do for me. And, I hear, you'll hear like, well, before you can, help someone else, make sure your tank is full. Yeah, all those things. Yes, take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to be careful that in the self-care that it doesn't turn us into being like just focused on ourselves, right?
Right.
And so self-care needs to be something that is deliberately healing and
Mm,
replenishing, right? Not
mm.
like I'm going to doom scroll or I'm
That's
going to
good.
couch rot or I'm going to play a video game. That's
That's
not
good.
self-care.
That's good.
That is self-idolatry. That's
Ooh, she dropping them. Can we drop the mic? This is the mic drop. That is so good. Self
mm-hmm.
idolatry,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not getting better.
Yeah, you're not getting, that is the indication that you're in self idolatry
Ooh,
when the things I do to make myself feel better aren't actually healing me, setting me free, and causing me to feel better and
come
do better.
on. Come on. That is so good. Okay. Well, we're coming to an end, and I'm gonna end with this question. There are a lot of people that are a little apprehensive and not so much of a fan of counseling.
Mm.
They think therapy is for people who have big issues and a lot of trauma. But do you feel like counseling is important for people? Do you feel like therapy and what it provides individuals, do you think that it is something that people should look into, something that people should consider? What would you say to a person who really thinks that counseling or therapy is just for people who have issues and the big problems?
Yeah. And it's funny because I think about how like it's like, oh, counseling, it's not for me, it's for crazy people, right?
Right.
I had a nurse that I worked with once at the hospital, and she would say, "Well, Black people don't go crazy; they just go to work, right?" And we would crack up because I'm like, and she's like, "We just don't deal with our stuff." And she was
Yeah.
old; she was older than me, and I said, "Yeah, it's unfortunate because if you feel like if you're on the fence of whether you need therapy or if you feel like therapy is not for you, I would ask you, how are you liking your life thus far? How
Okay.
are you liking how you treat yourself and speak to yourself? How do you like how you connect or don't connect with others? How well is that going
Mm.
for you? Right? Usually, everyone, if you're a humble person and
Yeah.
self-aware, right, and at
Yeah.
least cognizant of somewhat of your flaws,
Yeah.
would want to work on improving how you speak to yourself, how you treat yourself, and how you connect with others around you.
That's
That's
good.
human. That is also like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? There is the acceptance and the validation and connection with others. And so to say you don't want that, that's a different type of person. That we're looking at narcissism, we're looking at personality disorders at that point, right?
Yeah.
But it would be about like, how is your life going right now?
Mm-hmm.
And if the things that you don't enjoy, if they continued, how would that impact you
Mm.
over time?
That's really good. That's really good.
Hmm.
So a person really needs to do some self-assessing to see what their self-talk is like,
Hmm.
what their interactions with people is like, and if they're okay with that. That's
Hmm.
really good.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that all boils down to, I think, also value, because it's and again, this because this is I'm a different. I tell my clients, I'm a different type of therapist. I'm not gonna be what you see on TV. I am different. And
Right.
so it's like, okay, fine. You don't think you need therapy. You don't think, well, you say you love yourself, but to not do therapy and to not face these things, that's not very loving. That's
Mm.
neglectful. That's neglect.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if you do see value in yourself and you do love yourself, then you want to be a better person emotionally and connect with others around you.
Wow. That's good. So you will pursue the things to become healthier, to become
Hmm.
more whole. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a tremendous discussion. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
joining
you're
me.
welcome.
It's so crazy. I don't know how many years it's been. I remember I first seen you back in the day you probably don't remember me, but actually seen you at a church. You were praying. I was like, man, that is a powerful woman of God. And just over the years, I've followed you and watched how you've grown as a woman, as a wife, and a mother. And so I appreciate you joining us and giving us some quality information today. And so
You're welcome.
those of you who watched today, thank you all for joining us. And I hope something was said today that was helpful to you. And again, happy Mental Health Awareness Day. See you guys later.